Welcome to the Sirius report. This is Paul, and today I'm going to assess why Nord Stream 2 has been averted several times in recent months. Some may disagree with this assertion, but in principle, drones can destroy tanks or cause serious damage. So in principle, they could also damage pipelines as well as compressor stations. So in principle, the same outcome as what happened in Nord Stream could also happen at another pipeline. And why are we talking about this? Because Kiev made yet another attempt to attack a compressor station providing gas to the Turk Stream pipeline on the 28th of February. Notice very little coverage or discussion about this. Whenever it's something related to Ukraine, the mainstream media doesn't talk about it, and frankly, often neither does the alt media. This all happened when Zelensky was on that trip to Washington, and Kiev used 3 unmanned aerial vehicles. So what they did is they were seeking, obviously, to stop gas supplies to European countries, and made this attempt yet again to destroy infrastructure facilities at the Russkaya compressor station in Gay Kodzor, which is in Russia's southern Krasnodar region, which therefore obviously provides gas to this Turk Stream pipeline. The attack involved 3 drones, and Russian air defenses shot down all 3 Ukrainian UAVs at a distance from the compressor station, which prevented obviously any collateral damage from these drones striking them inadvertently. The compressor station, obviously, as I said, provides gas to the Turk Stream pipeline. Normally it continues. This also comes after Kiev made an attempt to also attack the Russkaya compressor station on January the 11th, and that time using 9 drones. And at that point, all the drones were shot down by defenses. The debris of one of the drones obviously caused minor damage to the station's buildings and equipment. Now, potentially, it might not have been minor damage. It could have been a situation where if they'd seriously damaged the compressor station, then gas supplies could have been interrupted for an indeterminate period of time. The question is, and we shouldn't rule it out, maybe they could destroy a section of the gas pipeline itself, which would equally knock out the gas supplies to European countries for an indeterminate period of time. It's also worth noting the following with regards to other oil pumping station being attacked. And this happened on February the 17th, when the Kropotkinskaya oil pumping station, which is a facility of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, was also attacked by Ukrainian drones. Now, oil flow through this pipeline consortium fell by about 40% following a Ukrainian drone attack on its largest pumping station in Russia. So they severely damaged key infrastructure at this pumping station in Krasnodar. So essential equipment, including a gas turbine unit and an electrical substation, was severely damaged, which reduced the station's operational capacity. And to put this in context, full restoration of the station was expected to take several months. So you can put this in context with what we said previously. If serious damage was done to the Turk Stream pipeline, then you could be without gas for several months also. Now, that attack, which took place at Kropotkinskaya, actually involved 7 Ukrainian drones that were armed with explosives and metal fragments. There were no casualties, but of course, there was, as we said, substantial damage, and the station had to cease operations. Fortunately, workers on site prevented an oil spill, which would have caused environmental damage in the process. As a result of this, the oil transportation system was rerouted via an emergency pipeline that bypassed this station. And whilst crude oil exports from the Caspian Pipelines Consortium marine terminal near Novorossiysk, I think it is, pardon my pronunciation, remained unaffected, oil shipments from Kazakhstan were going to be decreased by about 30% until repairs are completed. So this isn't just something, excuse me, that impacts Russia. It can impact countries like Kazakhstan, and in the case of the Turk Stream pipeline, interrupt gas supplies to European countries. Now, that whole pipeline system is about 1,500 kilometers in length, and it connects Kazakhstan's western oil fields to Russia's Black Sea coast, where, of course, crude is then loaded onto tankers for export. So you can see there has been repeated attempts to cause serious damage to both gas and oil facilities, and by extension, also associated pipelines are under threat. Now, we all know, as things stand, Ukraine is in a desperate situation. Zelensky's back is against the wall. He has come out and apologized to the Americans, but has said he's refusing to have any negotiations with Russia. So the more desperate Ukraine becomes, the more desperate they might be to try and cause an incident somewhere and repeat these kind of attacks. Now, our defense system should be able to deal with those problems. Does it mean they will definitely be able to do so? No, it doesn't. Therefore, on that basis, this is an ongoing threat. And for now, Nord Stream, or a repeat of Nord Stream, has been avoided and averted, but it doesn't mean that will be the case in the future. And this is why this is extremely important to discuss, because for me, there hasn't been enough public acknowledgement of this. And therefore, we hope by bringing this to people's attention, they can be aware of these acts of what would be terrorism, effectively trying to intentionally destroy pipelines, which, after all, are supposed to serve the interests, like Turk Stream, of European countries. They're the beneficiary at the end of this. Yes, of course, Russia benefits also, but you can get the understanding of why this is something that is wholly unacceptable. I know people will say, well, Russia has destroyed energy infrastructure inside Ukraine. That is true, and no one's disputing that. But in this case, this actually is not just going to affect the Russians themselves, but in this case, this will impact Kazakhstan, who's providing this oil, and also customers who then are in receipt of this oil from the Black Sea coast when, yes, it's loaded onto tankers for export to wherever the final destination is. One of the points I want to make while we're in this podcast, and this relates to Belarus and why this is connected to the whole situation in Ukraine, and again is something that is largely overlooked or not understood, is Russia and Belarus have a union state treaty on mutual security guarantees. This has significance for safeguarding Russia's foreign policy interests, but perhaps, of course, more importantly, strengthens the defense of both countries. The signing of this demonstrates this unprecedented level and nature of the bilateral relations between the two countries. And the statement that came out is, we can guarantee such a level of security for a foreign state for the first time. This is obviously Russia's statement, up to the use, note, of nuclear weapons in the event of aggression against Belarusian people. The treaty has culminated the results of the careful work conducted by both countries for many years. And of course, we've said previously, including the deployment of Russia's tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. So this document is clearly of great importance. It does secure Russia's foreign policy interests, but also provides a defense and security of the union state between Russia and Belarus. Now, effectively, there's always been a concern that Belarus could somehow get dragged in through the back door into the Ukraine war again, given the desperation where Ukraine currently finds itself. This Union State Treaty on Mutual Security Guarantees means nobody's going to touch Belarus because, in principle, the imposition of what would be the equivalent to a NATO Article 5 would ensue. And as Russia said, if needs be, that would include nuclear weapons. So I don't think for 1 minute any nation's going to go near Belarus. And Belarus is strategically important, given it shares a border with Ukraine and a border with Russia. And with that, we end today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening, for all your ongoing support, which is greatly appreciated. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's very helpful if people do subscribe because it helps with the algo and it helps us to promote the channel, because we feel it's very important that things we discuss is understood and known by a much wider audience. And with that, I'll say goodbye.